Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
Thanks for sticking with us. A show of hands, how many folks learned something new tonight? Okay. Yeah. I think it's not lost on many of us in this room the impact of showing this film in this room, for having this in Fulton Chapel. And it resonates with me because I've been doing a lot of thinking and having conversation with folks and reading about places archived. And so thinking about tonight particularly has me thinking about that and what it means for us to be sitting in this room. Some of us, for students, they may think of Fulton Chapel as a place where they have orientation, so that's where their connection to this place looks like. For other alum, this place may look like something else, concerts, other things. And as like the saying goes, if these walls can talk, right, the things that it would say. So, Dr. Cole, my first question for you is, if these walls of Fulton Chapel could talk about this film tonight, what do you think this place would say of having this screening in this room with its audience?
Well, let's just thank God that these walls can't talk. And I think that much would probably be said. I recognized a number of people who appeared in the film that were.
You can't take all my questions, Dr. Cole.
Yeah, that are here as well. But it would, if the walls could talk, they would talk forever. They would tell a deep story about this institution. But the latter part of the chapter that they would talk would tell of a 21st century university who's gone through a lot and has come out where it should come out amongst the elitist institutions around the country. So that's the important part.
And I'm sure many of you recognize many of the places that we filmed in the documentary. A lot of those locations, they've changed over time. Barnard Observatory was one. We learned as we were filming there that it was once the Chancellor's house. So there were protests outside of the Chancellor's house, and it was actually Barnard Observatory. So just thinking about those changes over time of this place, to your point, Dr. Cole. And I did want to ask, like, that point of, it was interesting when we premiered this last Thursday at the Oxford Film Festival. And Antonio, I was sitting next to each other and watching people's reaction to the things on the screen. And so it's definitely, this is a story just as much about Dr. Cole as it is about our community. So it's been very special to see people's reaction to this story. And so I wanted to see, like, how many people either saw themselves physically in this or symbolically represented through this story. Show of hands. Thank you for that. So my question for Antonio, typically as a filmmaker, as an artist, artists create art that represents themselves. There's some kind of piece in that artistry that represents who they are. So Antonio, I wanted to ask, like, for you in creating this, what part of this represents Antonio? Where do you see yourself in this film?
That's a tough one. Oh man. Whew, where can I start? Let me see. Throughout this film, some of the shots were symbolic and some hidden meanings behind it. Especially when we filmed inside of the Lyceum. And we set up a 2 to 3 camera setup. And you notice that I was doing a lot of cutting back and forth from different angles. And depending on what Don was saying, I was trying to show some of the imagery in the background because of the people that's on the wall. And then some of the other location, it was hidden meanings. But I want you to watch it again and just really, really focus on those shot types and the movement. I saw myself in several locations, listening to some of the people that we interviewed, over 30-some people, and each one had a different story. Some made you cry on the inside, you know, because, growing up in Bruce, 20, 30 minutes down the road, you don't heard some of these stories. And so to listen to some of the people who was involved in those events, it just bring back some of the memories that you was told as a child. I was telling the journalist earlier, I lived here 20 years and never knew anything about the Ole Miss 8. Not one clue about it. Saw Don throughout the town, but didn't know Don's story until we really started filming this project. It was tough, it was challenging, but I'm glad that Steve decided to allow me to tell his story. It was hard to kind of piece together and balance it out to try to make it meaningful, and be specific on the different type of, routes and roads that we went down. Yeah. She know I'm not a talker, so I'm about at my limit of words. Yeah.
So I have one more question. I have a lot more questions, but I'll ask them one more question, then I'll turn it over to you all so that you can ask questions. I'll share this time. Typically, we ask of filmmakers this question, but Don, I wanted to ask you, since you're here. Typically, we ask, we know that there's a lot that was left on the cutting room floor. There's a lot of things that are left and did not make it. But thinking about Don, you've done so many amazing and phenomenal things. There's so many great things about your life. And so we couldn't capture that in 82 minutes, the fullness of all those things. So tell us something that is essential to your life and that afforded you the ability to do the things that you do, to be the Don Cole that we know, that wasn't included in the film.
Oh, thank you for that question. Before I dove off into that as I watched it, I learned a few things myself. Some of the stuff I'd forgotten, and of course you saw me in the strip in the movie, but pretty much I had a storied part in the sense that I was to be at a certain place at a certain time, and my wife would get me there, and she would get me dressed and everything, and tell me what to say, and more important, what not to say. But I didn't really give a list of all of these individuals. Somehow, Antonio found all of these people. It's as if he interviewed one and something else would emerge, and then he'd find that person somewhere else in a different state and interview that person and interview the next. And so how he wove all this together, I terribly appreciate. Of course, when first asked about participation, I quickly said no, because it could just not be interesting. And also I thought he'd yank out his iPhone and say, and focus on somebody. What do you think about Don Cole? Give him $10. They said, oh yeah, he's okay, and on the next person. But I was so pleased because not only my story was there, but lots of other stories were there as well. And so I say that to say that I don't necessarily see it as the Don Cole script as much as I see it as an event that took place that affected a lot of people, and the fact that we were able to and somehow incorporate those individuals and those voices. So that's what I think I appreciated about it most. If it was just about me, then I'd probably want to some more family life up in there, some more life about relative to my church and some of the things that I do up in there, or some of the friends growing up with a little bit more. But I like the fact that other voices were up in there that were, in a sense, more important to the story than I. So that's what I think I appreciate most.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that just a little bit. So that was a director's cut, some fine edit. I'm still working on it. We just haven't got around to that particular interview that you was talking about just then. But again, the edit that you saw is a nonlinear type edit because of some of the events that happened, kind of delayed us from filming some additional interviews and stuff with Don and hopefully Marsha, the rock star. And it's a few other things that I really, really want that I think that would help enhance it. But Castel and I have been talking about should we just call it picture lock, tighten it up, and just move forward with it. As a creative, we're always saying a lot of stuff that you can improve or add or take away from it. And then trying to cut a second cut to try to fit within that PBS format and stuff like that. So, we're still in the lab, still in post, working with it. We got to color grade it. We have to mix it and stuff to finalize the project.
So now it's your turn. Questions?
Current graduate student here at OBS, and I'm studying journalism. My question, I was trying to think about how I wanted to word it for Mr. Cole. And I think for one, like me watching this film as someone who originally never thought about going to Ole Miss because of the history, but also being attracted to the opportunities and coming here as a transfer and still learning more about the history, like being here. I would love to hear what your advice would be, for students that are coming in this generation and trying to navigate this space that we are minorities in, essentially. I feel like as transfers or freshmen in general, it can be hard to where despite we have evolved as a university, there are still areas that we feel out of place in, essentially. So watching this and seeing the inspiration behind it, and I guess looking at what is going on today and how there are still those spaces we struggle to find, I would just love to hear like what are your current thoughts on that? What advice you would give to those students?
Well, first of all, you've made an excellent choice about choosing the University of Mississippi, and over time, the university has lended itself to helping students quite a bit. That was one time when not only this school, but most schools was a kind of swim or die. They throw you in the pool, and if you made it, good. If you didn't, hot nose. And so the advice would be to kind of take advantage of what is here. When I was here, I didn't have a Castel to lean on, but you got Castel plus to lean on. And so if you endure to the end and get a degree, it would be worth it. You would place yourself amongst some elite and with a alumni basis that could take you places that you wouldn't believe. And of course, it shouldn't be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. College is supposed to be somewhat difficult. But do be determined and take somebody with you. When you are encouraged and somebody else is discouraged, pull them up and they'll do vice versa for you as well. And so thank you for choosing the University of Mississippi. And when you finish, call Castel and she'll give you a job.
I was gonna say, it's almost like he still works here and we still pay him a little bit.
Hey y'all, Dr. Cole, thank you for the legacy that you're still creating for the university. First of all, I'm Edward Wiggins. I'm the Assistant Director for Attention in the Center for Inclusion and Cross-Social Engagement. My question is actually about your time at Tulu. For a little backstory, it's not about but I got my master's here at Ole Miss, but I got my undergrad, did my undergrad work at the University of Louisiana, small HBCU in New Orleans. And so I'm interested to hear how, if at all, the HBCU culture emotion and time you spent there affected the person?
Thank you for that question. Of course, at the time that I went there, it was after coming here, and my social life was terribly limited as I was here. I could not be a part of a fraternity, whereas at Tougaloo I could be part of a fraternity. Uh, and both places were certainly good for me academically as well. And so I'm just blessed to kind of have having had both experiences. And we need both schools for some reason, and I don't understand why, but it seems as if the black male is just not faring well as we would like in terms of numbers and graduation at predominantly white institutions. And so we can't afford in this country to lose a whole generation. And so that's something that we got to work on here, and where Tougaloo is able to kind of prepare some of these individuals right now. Uh, uh, and so it's something that you have to always be intentional about and keep the eye on. And so somebody's got to be doing that. That somebody might be you. That somebody might be someone else. But at any rate, it's room for both. It's room for all, and we can take each other and improve one upon another, if you will. And so I'm a proud graduate of a HBCU. I'm a proud graduate of a PWI, and that's just room. It's just enough room out there. Thank you for that question.
Hi, Dr. Cole.
Hi.
This is a question our previous grad associate dean of school of journalism and media, and this is a question for my filmmakers. In a time of erasure and limited social documentation, talk to us a little bit about making this film and telling this story in this space. Like, what was the charge for you personally, and particularly, how do you plan to distribute it, particularly as you're going to be talking more about public media in the days to come?
Oh, wow, good question. Thank you. So the project came about because of Stephen T. Case, the executive producer, approached me with the project. And I think it was more like a passion project. Steve and I met for coffee one morning, and he came up with the idea, wanted to do a documentary about Dunn. And again, I was intrigued about the story. So after the meet, I think I drove right back to Little Rock and started researching the whole event, Ole Miss 8, the protest, and really did a deep dive into archival stuff. I think later on that night, I put together a pitch deck, emailed it to Steve, and within the next couple of days, we decided to move forward with the project. As a cinematographer, director, whatever, right? So the process is normally you do these pre-interviews, you transcribe the pre-interviews, and then you dissect the interviews and break it down, come up with storyboards, all of this stuff. So my background is more on the cinematic side. So I'm taking that same approach, but because of, I think some of the people that we had list of people that Steve came up with, I think some of the people, the vacation and illness and stuff, and Steve was like, look, we probably need to start interviewing people as soon as possible. So we started interviewing, that was end of February, we started shooting March. So we skipped the whole process of stuff. And as a person that's kind of do stuff a certain way, it kind of threw me for a loop for a bit, but at the same time, I understood the process. And so we started interviewing people. Then Steve started coming with more people on the list, more people on the list, more people on the list, more people on the list. then we traveling. Like, I think we came from DC from a film festival on Sunday night, and I met up with Steve and them on Monday. We went straight to Atlanta, from Atlanta over to Tallahassee. I mean, from Atlanta to Tallahassee, down to Gulfport to Brookhaven, Brookhaven to Jackson, back to Oxford to film like within 4 or 5 days and stuff. But the process is really taking those interviews, transcribing those interviews, breaking it down, and utilizing the software that you got, right? And then try to figure out what's the best way to tell this story without like going too dark with it, I guess. And then trying to balance out, especially with this one, because you had the protest, then you have Don. Don got a lot of stuff, right? And then trying to do it within a certain amount of time, which was real critical. Like that timeline, you might start out with a timeline that's probably 3 or 4 hours, and then you're trying to shrink it down some more, to try to. I think my goal was like a 90-minute final edit, including credits and everything. And so, it's trying to balance it out and being smart about how to represent every individual that participated in the documentary without disrespecting them or disrespecting university. And I tip my hat off to the university because they allowed us to come on campus and utilize a lot of the facilities and stuff. And they was Brad and some of the other members of the universities pretty much gave us a open door policy type of thing, which was fun. It was cool, but I'm very thankful for that. But the editing process. I mean, I'm still editing on the thing, man. I need to stop. I was telling Castel earlier, man, like I've been up here since 2 o'clock this morning. I got up 2 o'clock this morning working on this song. And but that's part of it being a skeleton crew. Because it was only me, Jordan, who was the sound guy, and then Castel would come, when she could, and Steve would join us, which I had to tell Steve, like, Steve, sit down, I got this. Like, you're like, no, I can carry a sandbag, Steve. No, Steve, we good, Steve. And then you look around, Steve coming up the steps with a sandbag. Yeah, but Steve, Steve was super trooper, man. He hung in us with us. And then it was for me getting feedback from Steve, getting feedback from Castel to try to balance out the story so that we can get our message across, if that makes sense. As far as the distribution side of it, Castel and I went and talked, trying to come up with a plan to do like a Southern state tour. We are screening the film in DC in June, and then back in DC, I think October. But we are putting a plan together. We can take it around to the different Southern states, universities, also private screening, public screening, and stuff like that. I'm gonna do a little spiel, and we're looking for underwriters to help us do this. Because it takes money to get out there and do what we do, right, Don? Yeah, but my goal is to try to get it out there as much as we can, and then we'll run it through the film circuit, and then hopefully put it on an online streaming platform. Yeah.
My name is Jay Craig. I'm an assistant professor of law at the School of Law, and just want to really honored to be on the faculty here at the University of Mississippi as someone from Hattiesburg who grew up feeling like this wasn't a place that I could come, even though I was born and raised in the state, and now be part of making this the kind of university that I would have felt welcomed at as a high schooler. And I'd love to hear your advice for us as Black faculty members, and what do you think our role is in this moment, especially as someone who became so invested in the future of the university in a way that was just so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for what you do. I've had opportunity to sit through a few of your programs that you put on over at the law school as well, and and some of the ones that are planned. And you're in a somewhat unique position, and you're taking advantage of that position. And of course, for the faculty, and particularly minority faculty here at the University of Mississippi, if you can do well here, you can do well anywhere. And doing well here will send you to places that you won't believe, even though we don't want you to go. And if you go, sometimes we do have to send them. We'll grab and get you back later on. And so we're just off Black History Month, and the national theme has kind of been centered on the founder, if you will, of Black History Month, and pretty much his theme is that wherever you are, whatever you do, someone helped to get you there, and so you help get that name out as well, to inspire young people to be able to take our various places. Then we have to create that atmosphere, let them know that others before them have come and have built some bridges, and so I think that's so important, and especially in terms of the current climate. We have sort of sit back and almost done nothing and seen and watch what we've built up over 10, 20 years be destroyed, if you will, in a year or so. And so we are just to be cognizant of that, and to fight that good fight as well. And just a point of privilege, as we watch the movie, you probably learned something because it involves a lot of history. So I do want to let you all know that the Gilliam Center, I think, was probably the first building on campus that was named for a Black person. And so for the students here, you can research that, and that nice, beautiful statue that's in front of the pavilion, Coolidge Ball statue. It tells a story as well. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Dalen Flowers. I'm a senior journalism major here at the university. First, I want to say thank you, Dr. Cole, for everything you've done and continue to do here at the university. And thank you guys as well to you two and the entire team for putting this documentary together. My question is for Dr. Cole. I want to ask you, with everything that you've experienced and lived through since that moment in the 70s, if you could actually go back to the 70s, what advice would you give to yourself throughout that time, throughout the 70s of yourself? What advice would you give yourself once you made it all life that you have?
That's a good one.
I've been talking to myself a long with all types of advice. Our hindsight is 2020, and certainly at the time, and some of the things that I did, I was the typical, if you will, 18-year-old entering the university. I wish I was 18 and thought like I was in my 50s or 60s, but that didn't happen. And so I look back and I see, oh man, I could have spent a little more time studying. I could have done some things that I just gave some advice about, and studied more about the university and other people who've come here and come before me and done some things. It was a while before I found out that somewhere over in art, before they were able to allow individuals to come here of color, that one individual took a class here out of the closet. He went into a janitor's closet to be able to take a class. But I think I would have been a lot more motivated by that, and so some of the times I spent partying, I probably would have been studying a little more as well. And so the advice that I probably would give myself is to, okay, it's okay to be 18 and act like 18, but don't stay 18 long. Just grow up some, as quick as you can. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that question.
One last question.
It's featured.
Hi, I am Latrice Johnson, a PhD student at
Trees.
here. Sorry. My question is, so kind of coming off of Dr. Smith's question about the direction and futures of this film, sorry. I wonder how we can have something like this cemented into the campus, right? So beyond the tour, how do we have, if that is your goal for filmmakers, how can we have that here? So last Friday, there was a Black History Month event that was hosted at the Jackson Avenue Center, not well attended by students, right? And so my concern as a graduate student, graduate teaching assistant, and someone who's also a TUBU grad, who appreciates learning about the histories of the spaces that I am working in, teaching in, and living in, how can we have this film that is visible in a way that maybe is not only online or streaming, but maybe it's on a display in Martindale Cove, or it's somewhere else. Maybe it's in the Lyceum, maybe it's somewhere on campus, right? For students to view as they pass by, so that they can continue this direct contact with all of Dr. Donald Cole's legacy.
Yeah. So going back to the distribution side of it, we are in plans of licensing the film, and then also trying to figure out what we're actually consulting with the group now on several different ways and how to distribute the film, make it more accessible throughout, so that people like yourself, universities, can have constant access to the film. You want to add to that? You don't want to add to that? She don't want to touch it. But definitely, that's, again, we working on the finalizing a few things, and then again, like I said, working on the online side of it also. Yep.
I did want to make one closing comment, and when it was filmed earlier, I had the opportunity to make this comment as well, because people like Castel and others always ask me, well, why did I come back to the University of Mississippi?
Yep.
So that is the question that I ask you. Why did I come back? And so you formulate that answer, and you tell your neighbor next door, or you tell me, or you tell one of these individuals, why did I come back?
I think that's a great one to end this on, and to come to the reception in the union and talk about it, and continue to engage. I want to also again thank Dr. Cole for just being Dr. Cole. And I have one other tidbit. At the end of a lot of the interviews, we would ask people, like, if you were to explain Dr. Cole to a person who's viewing this for the first time, Is it bad? We would ask them, people will view this who don't know Dr. Cole, so how would you explain who Dr. Cole is? And they had a hard time. As many of you, I guess, in this room will also have a hard time explaining the impact and the legacy of this man. So Dr. Cole, I thank you for being Dr. Cole. All the things that you do and that you are for this community. So join us in the union so that you can also thank him. There's refreshments, there's food, time to grab a photo. We all know Dr. Cole loves his photos. So come grab your photo to capture this historic moment at the University of Mississippi with us, and have an awesome night.